Crimson Desert is finally just around the corner, and if you've seen any gameplay, you probably noticed there is a lot going on in this game. And if you have been keeping up with the game, there are a lot of features and gameplay things you probably didn't even know were in it. Despite it mainly being focused on the gameplay, Crimson Desert is a heavily narrative and story-driven action-adventure game that follows our main character, Klif. You do not create a character. It's a character-focused game like something like The Witcher 3, for example. There is no character creation. What we do have is a lot of customization. We've seen a bunch of different outfits and armor sets in the game, from like heavier knight-style armor all the way to a freaking ghillie suit. You can see them petting this dog here while they wear armor that looks kind of like a dog. They have not confirmed if there is a Transmog system where you can wear one set of armor or outfit while getting the look of another, but what we do know is that there is like an infinite number of different color variations that you can put on these outfits or armor sets to where they look completely different than someone else's. You don't just color the overall armor, but you can color each individual piece. There's different hairstyles, tattoos, you can change your eyebrows and facial hair, as well as being able to color and dye them. Not every single color and dye will be available right away, but you'll have to find them through the world or create them yourself using alchemy. There are no classes, but the two other characters that we can play as essentially are different classes since they both play completely differently, have different weapons, and pretty much everything is different. You have Damien, the female character who uses a pistol and a musket, as well as a rapier, and is just a smaller, more agile, faster character to play as. And then Unka, who is like our big barbarian orc kind of guy who plays more like a brute. He's big, he has a two-handed axe, he's sort of like a slower but harder hitting, kind of tankier character. These are our companions who we can recruit and play as to experience their stories and use their exclusive abilities and their unique playstyles, but we're also able to freely explore the open world with them. Klif, who is our main character, who we play as through most of the game, or is at least the main focus, he's a lot more balanced, but you also get to kind of choose how he plays, which we'll go over in a minute. The main quest line, the critical path, starts off with Klif's clan, the Greymanes, being attacked and pretty much destroyed by an enemy faction called the Black Bears. Klif's goal starting out is rebuilding the clan and regrouping with whatever members are still alive, but that's apparently not what the entire story will be about and will twist off into something else. But that whole premise of you rebuilding your clan is a huge part of the overall game. While rebuilding your faction, you'll gain members through the story and quests, but also over time, as more members hear about your camp, they'll kind of find you and wander in by themselves. The camp starts off small, but will get bigger and bigger as you play and upgrade it, which almost becomes like its own little settlement. You're able to build and customize your base by using this builder mode to place and move around each item in one of the coolest little, most convenient ways I've ever seen an open world game do something like this. You have shops and traders inside of your camp allowing you to purchase some of the things that you need, like for crafting and cooking, as well as starting your own farm where you can have plants and vegetables, or your own livestock that you can raise and butcher yourself. We've seen some of this in the earlier gameplay, at least carrying the animals. There are some quests or activities that have you returning a lost sheep to a kid. We've also seen gameplay of them picking up pigs, chickens, and donkeys. Faction members can also be sent on missions, which reward you with some of those resources you'll need for crafting, cooking, alchemy, and all of those upgrades, as well as being able to send them to attack some of the fortresses or strongholds without you to weaken them for when you do go attack it yourself. I think this is really cool. It reminds me of Fallout Shelter sending your dwellers out into the wasteland, and probably even more like the system in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. You also have wagons that you can take to and from traders, loaded up with all of the items that you want to trade. The things you're trading need to be packaged in special containers in order to trade them. Whether or not those items are found like that, or you place them in those containers first in order to sell them, or they're just automatically placed like that once you put them in the wagon, we do not know. There's also some level of dynamic economy where prices change over time for the amount that you're selling or buying items for. Besides just the horses and wagons, you have a lot of different mounts that you can use to get throughout the world, from wolves, a giant bear mount, raptors, and a mech that is equipped with a multi-target lock-on rocket launcher, an EMP ability, a cannon, and a machine gun. Then you have dragons, your glider, and hot air balloons to fly through the sky. Most of, if not all of them, you can use for combat. You have the spiderweb, which looks like a Just Cause 3 styled grappler that you can use to swing around, which we've seen them turn into a spinning cannonball with it, or slingshot themselves off of a tree. But we've also seen you can go straight from the spiderweb into the glider, or go from the glider straight up to landing on a wild horse to tame it. So yeah, you can also tame wild horses. You also have a triple jump ability, which it seems like you can use for both combat and going into your glider or grappler. You can not only steal mounts and wagons from other NPCs and enemies, but you can use the grappler to rip them off of the mount and take it from them. At first, it seems like chaos, like the developers are just going crazy throwing all of these random things into the game, but they all do seem to have reasons for being here. For example, some of the things are created by scientists, others are created by dwarves. There are no check marks on the map or trackers, but you can view what you have and haven't completed in your journal if you decide to. Fast travel points are also given to you as a reward for exploring. They're not marked with the exact locations, they're completely hidden around the map. You'll get a search area with a fast travel point icon, so you know a fast travel point is somewhere in that large search area, but you have to find it. And you're probably going to want to find some of those because the map has been said to take 2 hours to cross on horseback. The map is larger than Red Dead Redemption 2 and at least twice the size of Skyrim's playable world. The developers have said they don't want to really go based on an actual number for the map size because it's difficult to really say much with just a number, and constantly say that the size of the map doesn't really matter if it's empty. So they don't want people to just take away that it's a huge map. They say that there's a ton to do in this world and it's not just a bunch of empty space. And from everything we've seen, that is true. Crimson Desert feels incredibly lived in, with a ton of things going on within it. You have heavy condensed areas with lots of things going on in them, like some of the major cities we've seen, where based on what a lot of the early access players have said, you can enter any building you see, and inside of all of those buildings, we're all different, not just copy and pasted. While some of the other parts of the map are more spread out with less going on, but still have a ton of things to do. That's kind of like what they've said their main goal is almost, is creating a world with a ton of fun things to do to try and distract you from whatever quest you were following. To name some of the open world activities, you have fishing, hunting animals, shooting competitions, horse racing, rock, paper, scissors, arm wrestling, apparently some type of fight club, or like Fable's fist fighting arena thing, some kind of a poker type card game with bronze coins on the table. And those are just some of the random mini games in the world, but there's way more going on. There are also hidden places everywhere, tombs, caves, and it seems like those caves will be marked on the map when you find them. Plus there are treasure maps that you can find lying around that lead to hidden treasure. There are beggars who ask you for food and sort of chase you down in case you didn't hear their cries for help, as well as some beggars you see on the streets who you can give money to. You can give gifts to some of these civilians, like we see them gift this noble a painting, which takes their trust with that noble to 100 and results in him giving you a finely crafted golden ring. Other residents will pickpocket you, plus you can commit crimes yourself. You can steal from other people in the world by tackling them and robbing them. You can threaten them into giving you their stuff. We see them purposely run into a guy and almost tackle him, knock him off balance, and knock all of the apples out of his basket and then steal them. You can pickpocket other characters or, like I mentioned earlier, take their mounts or vehicles, all resulting in crime. Doing so can lead to a bounty, which it seems like you can pay off, but if not, and you're caught, you will go to jail. Your reputation or progress and level with that faction that runs that city or area seem to take major hits from your bounty, or at least from fighting back against your bounty hunters. There is a bounty system in Crimson Desert, not just for you, but for hunting down your own bounties as well. You can accept some sort of bounty, hunt that guy down, and bring him back for various rewards. One of these rewards we know is like higher reputation. You can pick that guy up and run around while you carry that bounty, and apparently there's faster methods of turning them in than just carrying them, probably by using your mount or tossing them into a wagon. But it's not just those bounties, you can actually tackle random enemies, tie them up, and apparently take them in too. Structures and things in the world can be destroyed. Not everything, but most things. You can smash through the walls of buildings, tables and chairs, furniture, fences, and you can also use various elements in the game, like fire, lightning, and ice, and you can use these elemental effects for various things in your gameplay, like applying them to your weapons for combat. You can apply them to your abilities as well, or to use on this destructible environment. All of these elements apply to the environment in the same way you'd expect that element to apply to it. Fire burns and spreads, electricity conducts through things like water, and ice will freeze water. The entire world that you see apparently can be reached. You can go to all of the mountains and the distant areas that you can see, partially made possible by the fact that you can climb virtually any surface in the game. And that includes enemies. You can apparently climb on the giant bosses and enemies that are in the world. Kind of reminds me of the PS2 game Shadow of the Colossus. There are no seasons, like as time goes on the weather will not change, but the regions and biomes make it feel like there might as well be. Regions apparently feel entirely different, with different cultures from the characters who you'll see with different outfits, different animals found in certain regions, as well as different plants and fauna. You can see plenty of the different regions in the gameplay reveal, but something cool is that the temperature, which you can see right above the compass, is calculated real time and determined by the time of day and other things like the elevation. Apparently it also takes like the wind and temperature and whatever else is going on to determine if it'll snow or rain. It's not just like a random thing. It's a pretty cool like dynamic weather system. There's also been gameplay clips floating around showing that you can sit down in a meditation pose and have the option to skip time. Throughout the world, you have various factions, some being friendly and some being hostile. Friendly factions will give you various missions and quests, some of them being missions to reclaim a fortress with various rewards. For example, the logging cabin on the map here likely rewards you with lumber and might even send like a reoccurring shipment of lumber to your camp every so often based on how the description reads. Enemy factions will give you rewards as well. It involves you taking that base that they have or reclaiming a fortress or defeating all of the enemies in that area. A lot of this reminds me of Shadow of Mordor. I guess there's like 17 different games you can think of with this game. We've also seen other examples of side quests, like they have this bulletin board here where citizens around the town seem to post what they need help with, like we talked about bringing that sheep back to the kid, but it looks like there's also some other animal quests or whatever they need help with, like we've also seen them helping citizens back to town. There are various qualities or rarities for items like resources that you can use to craft or build with. You can mine ore with a pickaxe for it to have a chance to drop premium stone, or chop down trees with an axe, which we've seen it drop high quality timber. And those tools are not your only options to gathering these resources. We've seen clips of them using the sword to chop down trees and then chop them further into logs, as well as an explosive arrow on a knocked down tree to turn it into lumber. Elements seem to play a major role in it, since every time we've seen gameplay of that, they're imbuing their weapon in fire first. You can also see in Digital Foundry's latest video on Crimson Desert, they pick up that gigantic tree that they just chopped down and slam it into the ground to make it into firewood. We also know that you can learn crafting recipes from books. The progression system in Crimson Desert is a little different too. You might have already heard that you do not level up and there is no XP in Crimson Desert, but you still progress and make your character stronger by playing. Instead of earning XP and leveling up and getting a skill point, you have Abyss artifacts. These are used to unlock skills and abilities, which you can also use more Abyss artifacts to upgrade those abilities, as well as increase your health and stamina with them. These Abyss artifacts can be earned in various ways, like from boss fights or found hidden throughout the map. You can see in some of the gameplay they use this sword glint ability to lead them over to these Abyss artifacts. This magic light that you use doesn't only detect Abyss artifacts, it's just one of the many things that you can find by doing this. You can also use that sword glint ability during combat to reflect sunlight into the enemy's eyes to blind them. You have Abyss Islands, these big old floating islands that you see up in the sky, which appear to be very different from one another and contain various puzzles leading to more rewards. So besides using those Abyss artifacts as like kind of skill points, you also unlock skills and abilities through watching other NPCs use them. And there's like a ton of different types of abilities. You have combat abilities and basic abilities that just help you out when exploring the world, like the Force Palm here. You can see them learn that from some type of monk guy that they're using to bounce off of a tree in another gameplay later on. But on top of watching NPCs to learn, you can also steal boss weapons or more like their abilities after defeating them and collecting their rewards. We've seen that giant night guy boss fight a couple of times where he spams out a bunch of different ghost or illusion attacks. You can defeat him and then learn that ability from him to use it for yourself. So for some more of the actual combat and gameplay stuff, their main goal is making the game fun rather than too difficult, but it is not necessarily easy. There are no difficulty sliders or difficulty adjustments that you can make in the settings. Just one difficulty as of now. But it's also not a Souls-like. There aren't narrow parry or dodge windows that you'll need to master for each boss fight. Instead, if something is too difficult, you can just come back later since the enemies do not scale to your level. So if something is too hard, you can explore, level up, upgrade, or get better gear, and use some of the various different buffs to just make it easier. Like the cooking we mentioned allows you to cook up heals and buffs that you can take into battle. Also, there are apparently blueprints in the game that you can find or be rewarded with to craft or cook new items. One of those blueprints is a self-revive, and you can take multiple of these revive items into battle. Cooking in here seems to take inspiration, like a lot of recent games have, from Breath of the Wild. You can discover recipes that you can follow to cook a specific dish, or you can toss random ingredients into the pot, see what wacky thing you can come up with, and you'll learn the recipe that way. So if you start the game and already saw someone else's recipe that looked like it might be good, you can grab those ingredients and learn that recipe without having to actually find it. There are a ton of different weapons we know we can use, like Klif's signature sword and shield that we see a lot, great swords, spears and polearms, one-handed and two-handed axes, the bow and arrows that you see quite often throughout the gameplay, as well as the flintlock pistols and rifles, and the arm-mounted cannon that we've seen. But also you can fight bare-handed. There's even a little stat for it. And you can dual-wield weapons. And not only can you use those elements that we went over to use them in combat, to give your weapons an elemental effect, but you can also easily swap between your weapons mid-combat. Supposedly, you could get some really creative combos going by doing this. There is no weapon durability. Weapons do not have a health meter. There is some durability with utility items like the axe that you use to chop down trees, since those are items that you have to craft. They're more of tools that you'll be using, but your actual weapons do not have durability. Your weapons and gear are not random looter-shooter type loot drops. A lot of, if not all of the weapons and gear in Crimson Desert are unique. You'll find them from exploring as well as being able to find blueprints for those weapons or pieces of gear to craft yourself and upgrade them. You'll also get some of them from bosses. It sounds like the lower tier, more random pieces of gear that random fodder enemies typically drop will be used to scrap for resources or sell for money. Your gear, as in your weapons, armor, and all of that, will have gear slots. This is where you can place Abyss gear, which are like augments that you can equip to these weapons and pieces of gear that come in varying tiers to buff up the attack damage, attack speed, critical hit chance, and all of the different stats that weapons, armor, and your gear gives. Like we see them equip the sword with the Destruction 1 Abyss gear to buff its damage by an additional point. The Destruction 2 gives 2 extra points. Gale 1 and 2 buffs the attack speed of your weapon. In order to equip these, you will need to find a witch. The combat is a little different from what you might be used to in an open world game. It takes inspiration from fighting games to chain different combinations. You have grappling and wrestling moves. You can hit enemies with a suplex that looks like it sends these guys to the dang Shadow Realm. They have basically Rock Lee's primary Lotus, the dang Stone Cold Stunner. You can grab someone by the legs and chuck them off of a cliff. You have a brutal looking Sparta kick, a drop kick, and even kick enemies while they're down, which if there's any other enemies around, they'll also get hit by that flying enemy that you sent with your kick. You have spinning attacks, and you can also stab enemies while they're down. You also have a dagger, which seems like it'll be used for stealth combat, since yeah, there is a stealth system in this game. You can dodge while aiming your bow to enter a slow motion effect, which it also does the same thing if you're free falling, and then aim down sights with your bow, kind of like Horizon Forbidden West. It seems like you can't just willy-nilly use an infinite number of skills and abilities, as you have this green leaf icon down at the bottom that represents your spirit. This is what you'll need to use at least some of your skills. One of the ways you can restore your spirit we know is from eating specific dishes, but it also looks like you can regain it by hitting enemies. But there are so many different combos and moves in here that it seems like there's infinite possibilities almost. The order that you press your buttons matter, whether or not you tap or hold it does different things, as well as pressing multiple buttons together, like X and circle I think is the roll, and then pressing another button right after that while you're rolling will tackle an enemy. But also the direction that you aim in will change multiple moves as well. Like we know if you hold the left analog stick on controller in a certain direction while grappling, that's how you do the varying different grapple moves. Going left and pushing grapple will do one move, while going up and grapple will do the RKO or whatever move is set to up. The combo possibilities in here look endless. Not just the combos, but the controls for some of them too. I found some of the gameplay from Sasha309, which I will leave this entire gameplay down in the description, but for the Gamescom demo here, you can see the controls were pretty wild. Keep in mind though, this is a tutorial built for the Gamescom demo, where you're tossed into the late game and didn't have any prior knowledge, so you won't have all of this thrown at you when you play, but some of the controls are pretty interesting. But you can see why some of the early demo players have complained about the controls feeling too complicated. But I've also seen quite a few people who've played it more than a couple of hours or got to play it multiple times say that it takes a minute to click in before you really get the combat and it feels good. But after that, it does feel pretty good. The developers have also been working a lot to make these controls feel better since the time of these gameplay demos, so the controls might not even look like this at launch. If you're someone who hates the field of view or camera zoom on some of the gameplay, you can zoom the camera in. You can even zoom into a temporary first-person mode that seems meant to just help you out with exploration, but there's no confirmation on an individual setting that permanently adjusts your camera and will zoom it in or out. There are also some settings that we know can be adjusted or entirely turned off. For one, the screen shake can be turned entirely off, but the biggest one I've seen people complain about are the particle effects. They have been dialed down since the early gameplay. Like in this video, you can tell which gameplays are older based on how much of these particle effects are in place, but they can also supposedly be adjusted or turned off in the settings. Also, a big one that I like is that there are frequent autosaves that don't make you replay the same thing over and over if you die, but there are also manual saves. I don't know about skipping cutscenes, but at least for the gameplay demos that people played, you were able to fast forward through those cutscenes. And also, there are no microtransactions. The closest thing to microtransactions are the pre-order bonuses and deluxe edition items. Everything else is in the game. You gotta play the game in order to get the items. But yeah, that is pretty much it. This video came out a lot longer than I expected. Leave a like and subscribe for more Crimson Desert videos. I will 100% be covering it more on the channel since it's like the biggest game I've been looking forward to the past couple years. See ya.